Hey everybody, welcome back to Review Crew. I'm Gabe.
And I'm Cameron.
And this week we're reviewing Werewolf by Night. Meg and Camila are going on the spot to take a look at the Twilight saga, and Brett's got a special gaming review.
Let's check out the trailer for Werewolf by Night.
This Halloween, you can't escape the shock, the terror of Werewolf by Night.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
But one of you is a monster, masquerading as one of our own. I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are. You wanna see this, darling?
Please don't do this. Death is coming for you!
Werewolf by Night.
Alright, so Cam, Werewolf by Night. It is definitely one of the strangest things Marvel has made in a very long time.
Yeah.
They didn't even label it a movie, it's not a TV show.
It's like a special presentation.
Yeah, special presentation, which really leans into those 40s and 50s horror aspects that I'm really excited to dig in with you, because I know you're kind of our resident expert on that Hammer horror era. But before we begin, this movie, like, it's all in black and white, except for like our little end credits thing, which is like a bold decision for Marvel to do.
Yeah.
What's kind of your thought on shooting this in black and white?
Oh, I was a huge fan because it really, so as you can see, the movie draws a lot of inspiration from The Wolfman, the 1940 film. And so the design of the werewolf, like unlike many other movies where the werewolf's just like a wolf, he's like a wolf man. So I really enjoyed that, and I really did like the black and white because it really does pull back to like those Universal monster movies. And I just thought it was a good callback, especially since it's released around Halloween. I thought it was a good special presentation.
No, I completely agree with you. I think as soon as I turned it on and that black and white hit, and there was that like intro with like the lightning crack, I was like, okay, yes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It like immediately set the ambiance. I was like, this is 40s horror done by Marvel.
With like a great score.
Exactly.
Of course,
and we're
by
totally,
the director.
yeah, we're 100% going to get
yeah.
into it. But I also think the black and white helped because this is 100% far and away the most violent piece of content that Marvel has ever made. And so I think the black and white really helped because they were able to essentially go TV mature, still get that TV 14 rating because you didn't really get like the vivid colors of the gore, which I think was a really smart decision for them. And so kind of sticking with that, the big criticism levied against Marvel has been, you know, you're giving us the same thing over and over and over again. Would you say this is a pretty unique take for Marvel? And if so, you know, is it something they should keep doing?
100%. I think it's really unique. You don't really expect that much from Marvel. Like, again, you usually have the superheroes. They're kind of going with something that wasn't as big in like Marvel comics. Like it's not Captain America, it's not Thor, it's not Iron Man. I thought it was really good, and it also opens the way for like a whole new group of Marvel characters that more people might know, like Blade and what's his name?
Man-Thing?
Man-Thing. Well, he was in it.
Yeah.
Man-Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think it's fair to say that Marvel have been kind of spinning the wheels in Phase 4.
They have not.
Thor: Love and Thunder came off as a little bit flat. And I will say, I think the things that they've been doing best in Phase 4 have been the comics that people don't really know the most about. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I think, was one of the most fun I've had in a theater since Endgame. And so when Werewolf by Night was announced, I was like, okay, this, you know, it's definitely different, and it was different in all the best ways. And so I was ecstatic while watching this. And I think a big part of that is the directing of Michael Giacchino. super talented composer. He did the Up score that I think everyone, like, as soon as you hear it, you know exactly what that's from.
Brings tears to your eyes.
Oh, it 100% does. And so, first off, just what are your thoughts on his directing style for Werewolf by Night?
I really enjoyed it. Again, I liked the black and white. I thought that was really good. And another thing I really liked was, so you talked about how there was color in the credits. There was only one thing that was colored in the actual movie, and it was the Bloodstone. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I think that was a really smart choice. I loved his usage of like the old-fashioned Tarantino-esque crash zooms, especially like when a character would see something shocking and it would just push into them. I thought was so much fun. That was like such a campy, it was 40s horror type.
It was like
move.
So retro feeling.
Exactly.
It just brings you back to another time, and you don't really think you're watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah, and I think he did a really excellent job of showing, not telling, especially in our moment where we get our big werewolf transformation for the first time. We don't see him transforming. We see his shadow up on the wall, and we see it like becoming more feral looking, and it was so cool. But sticking with Giacchino, and he also did the score for this. Did you like it? You know, what did it make you feel?
What can you say? This guy doesn't miss when it comes to scores. Like, almost every movie that he's done is it's just an amazing score. I can't really say anything else, and looks like he's a really good director too.
Yeah, obviously his experience with superhero scores, most recently doing the score for the Batman, which was
awesome,
exhilarating, and it was a perfect score. And he kind of nailed it exactly with this one. There was one moment where I noticed a little bit of the 40s synth, and I was like, this is a perfect little thing to set the mood. But he really relied on those like heavy strings, the plucking softly to like build into a crescendo moment, as we said, where we get the big transformation into the werewolf. And so I think that's something this special presentation does really, really excellently, is it just, we know the moment we're going to get to. We are going to get to Jack Russell turning into a werewolf and losing it on these people. And it builds really well, and I think that shows the writing. So how did you feel about the story about this? Did you think it was well set up? You know, and the execution behind it. What's your opinion there?
I thought that they did a good job for the time that they were allotted. What is it, 52 to 55 minutes?
I thought it was 53. I could be wrong. You usually have times memorized, so.
I'm not usually the times. My forte as a film watcher, how long a movie runs for. But again, I thought they did a great job with the time that they were allotted. And again, it's just really action packed. Like there's not many parts that drag, and that's what I like. And again, it's only 53 minutes, so if the movie did drag, then like you're just not really doing your job as a writer.
No, I definitely think like there was nothing you could have really removed from this to make like coherent sense of the story. Our plot essentially boils down to a bunch of monster hunters are looking for this stone that have been placed inside a creature called the Man-Thing, who if you are afraid of him and he touches you, you will burn at his touch. So he's like a very difficult thing to kill because you can't be scared of it at all. Come to find out, one of the monster hunters is not a monster hunter, he is a monster. He is Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. And so it turns into hunters hunting one of their own. It's a premise that's a little bit rote, but I think they execute it really well with a relative degree of simplicity. I will say this is a very simple story. They're not relying on big plot twists. It's really just more of a character story of Jack Russell. And these characters work despite the fact that there's some really unknown actors.
Yes.
Is there anyone in here that you really knew?
Not really. When I was looking through the cast, I was like, I don't really recognize, like nothing eye-popping, which is surprising because Marvel usually has a well-known actor, at least one. They usually have many.
The only one that I knew was Gael Garcia Bernal, who plays Jack Russell. He was excellent in M. Night Shyamalan's Old that came out last year that I still think is criminally underrated. But so you're not really distracted by these Hollywood actors playing these characters, and it kind of helps you sink back into that mood of like watching that special presentation because those weren't big actors at the time.
And it's also, I really like it because along with the unknown actors, you also don't know much about Werewolf by Night unless you're like a big Marvel fan. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
But like it's a little bit different in that sense because Guardians of the Galaxy had like established actors as their main people. But at Werewolf by Night, you don't really know the characters and you don't know the actors playing them. So I thought it really added to more of like the mystery and unknown of the story.
And we'll get right back to the characters and actors after a commercial break.
Welcome back to Review Crew.
On today's episode, we're going to review Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Here's a trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Let's talk about this movie now.
Let's talk about it.
I liked it a lot.
I love Kick-Ass.
There are parts of me that want to just go through frame by frame and see every single multiverse when they'd have those flashes.
Yeah, the big flashes. Me too.
Talented, funny, handsome. Tim,
Come on.
you got it all, buddy. You're like my own person.
Look
when I'm
who's
kidding.
talking. Come on.
See you next week.
And we're back. So, Cam, Werewolf by Night. We've been talking about Gael Garcia Bernal and how he did playing Jack Russell, which was, it definitely requires a little bit more brevity than normal Marvel movies because this was campy. In a fun way, but it was for sure campy. And so how did you think he did, playing this character who definitely, a lot of Marvel fans who are casuals just aren't going to know.
Like me.
Yeah, and giving a very layered performance because, he was campy, but also there was a certain point when he transformed that he, was a little bit frightening. So how do you think he did playing this character?
I thought he did a great job. Marvel, unlike DC, Marvel's done a good job at casting people in the roles where I don't ever think that someone's, a bad casting for the role. Sometimes it's a little bit forgettable, but I never think they've had a problem with where I'm like, this is just horrible. So I thought he did a really good job. Again, it shows the talent of the actor that he can be a campy character to start off the movie because the beginning of the movie is supposed to be campy, and then turn I know he's not talking as the werewolf too much, but he did a very good job.
His physicality was extremely impressive.
And I think that's probably why he got the role. He did a great job with that physicality.
Yeah, there was a moment where he busts out of the cage, and he's attacking all these people from the TVA, which was its own separate issue, which we'll definitely get into. But he's kind of treating like a wolf man really would. He's jumping around, biting people's necks, slashing at people. It's pretty great, which kind of leans into my next question for you, all about the gore that was in this. Like we previously touched on, it's more than we've ever seen in any other piece of Marvel content. First off, was that a good move in your opinion? Because it definitely makes it less accessible to younger Marvel fans. Do you think we should continue that if you're Marvel?
So I thought it was a good idea because it was a good movie to try it with because Werewolf by Night, you'll have Marvel fans like the casuals who you mentioned before who are probably just not going to watch it at all. It's there are going to be people that are just Werewolf by Night, what the hell is that? I'm not watching this. So it's a good one to test the waters but not make it too mainstream. It'd be if Thor: Love and Thunder was super violent, it'd be more of a risk. So I thought it was a good choice for that movie. And I thought it worked out really well. Again, the black and white definitely helped get it past the MPAA. And it's kind of like what Tarantino did in Kill Bill Volume 1 when they were going to rate his movie NC-17 because it was too bloody, so they put some parts in black and white.
Yeah.
So again, I thought it was a really good idea. And I have a question for you.
Okay, shoot.
Do you think Marvel's going to... do you think after the success of this, because I think a lot of other people liked it too, do you think Marvel's going to end up making a rated R movie? For the MCU, we know we already have Deadpool and Logan, which are technically canon now. But do you think they'll make one that's going to be mainstream Marvel, MCU?
Yeah, I think Marvel is aware that they've been spinning their wheels a little bit. She-Hulk had a very meta ending that essentially she crawled out of Disney Plus and attacked an AI version of Kevin Feige, which was bizarre in its own separate conversation. But I think that leans itself to the argument that they are aware that they've been spinning their wheels, which is why they've been so recently announcing all this wild stuff they're doing, like Harrison Ford joining the MCU. And so I think because they're aware of that, I do think we'll eventually get something R-rated from them. I have a feeling Deadpool 3 is going to be R-rated. It's written by the Bouchards, who are just super talented writers who wrote Bob's Burgers. And so I think that will be rated R. Apparently, Mahershala Ali, who's playing Blade, is relatively close to stepping away from the project because it's not rated R.
Wow.
So we could see Blade maybe become the first big rated R movie in the MCU, because frankly, I don't know how you do Blade without it being rated R. And so yeah, I think that gore, you don't have to have it in every single project. Marvel doesn't, it's also some family stuff. It's superheroes. It's the triumph of good over evil. So I don't think you need it in everything, but this was literally called Werewolf by Night. If you didn't think that's what you were going to get in this, then I think that's kind of on you. They released this while She-Hulk still had 3 episodes left. She-Hulk is a family show. It's amazing representation, shows like a super strong woman, and I think like it's something great for families to be watching together. Werewolf by Night isn't, and that's okay. Not everything in Marvel has to be made for the same people. Just like, we don't know if it's necessarily canon, but Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, those were TV mature shows that Netflix made.
And very gruesome.
And The Punisher, I think, is the best content Marvel has ever produced. And so I think it lends credence to the idea that this is something they should keep around. But speaking of things they should keep around, do you think we're going to see Werewolf by Night in any other future Marvel projects?
I think so. I don't think Marvel just does one-off things just for like, oh, here's a Werewolf by Night. There's a special presentation. There you go. That's the last you're going to see them. Everything Marvel does fits into this like whole universe.
Yeah.
We're going to see them again. I don't know when, I don't know where, but we'll see the Werewolf by Night again. And I'm going to ask you another question.
Okay.
Do you think this opens up the door for any, like, do you think this opens up the door for anyone that we haven't seen before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
100% I think it does. I think you have to realize that we are gearing towards Avengers Secret War, which is a multiverse-shattering story in comics. So I do think we're going to see the Fox X-Men characters again. We've already seen Professor X. We're getting Logan. So I think we're going to see them. I think we're going to see a bunch of characters that we haven't seen before, including maybe Wesley Snipes' Blade. And so the theory going around that's Marvel hasn't officially rejected it, almost to the point of like affirming it with their silence, is that this is actually a TV show set in like the world of WandaVision, stuff like that, the characters you're watching, and we might see it come out from the multiverse into part of this. So I think we're going to see Jack Russell, the Man-Thing, return. In Marvel Comics, there's a group called the Howling Commandos. They are essentially the Suicide Squad. They work for S.H.I.E.L.D., and they are a bunch of monsters who've been like rejected by society. So it's Blade, it's Encanto the Living Mummy, the Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night. It's super cheesy, but it's 100% something I could see being a big return in that Avengers Secret War as they're going up against Kang the Conqueror, which I think would actually be really fun. Like, as a Marvel nerd, that is an idea that really excites me. I was relatively surprised that Blade wasn't in this, and that might definitely have something to do with Mahershala Ali being willing to step away. They fired the director. The script was only 90 minutes. So Marvel's kind of in a little bit of chaos right now. I know you would describe it as pandemonium, just like there's a lot of pandemonium in this movie. It's a great word. And so I think that, I think they've got to stick with these characters because they worked. I think there's been such a huge positive reaction to Werewolf by Night, and people loved it. But I guess my big last question for you is special presentations. It's not a TV show, it's not a movie, but it works really well to introduce these characters without stakes. Is that something that Marvel should keep doing?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So let me ask you, what characters need a special presentation from Marvel?
That's a tough one. Maybe like, that's tough. Can you give me an answer?
I'll tell you mine. I think Wonder Man or Captain Britain, something like that. 100%. I need the Sacha Baron Cohen or Henry Cavill Captain Britain one shot. I think that would be amazing. But going back to Werewolf by Night, it was campy, it was fun. 1 out of 10. What are you giving it?
Give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Again, I thought it was a really good time. It's like some Marvel movies are very long now. Like 55 minutes was a perfect time for it. Again, introducing a new character that I didn't know much about. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good way to spend your time. And again, as a horror movie fan, I'm like a big fan of the 30s, 40s Universal monster callbacks.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I think Michael Giacchino kind of put the MCU on his back for a little bit. He gave me a project that I had so much fun watching, characters that I want to see return, and it was just a really good way to spend an hour. I had no regrets after it, and I think that's all you can really ask for. And with that, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Now we're going to kick it on over to our on-the-spot correspondents, Meg and Camilla, who are reviewing the Twilight Saga. Let's check it out.
Hi, I'm Meg.
Hi, I'm Camila. Today we're reviewing the Twilight Saga.
Let's go look at a trailer.
Nobody's ever loved anybody as much as I love you.
There's one exception.
Relive the immortal love story with Twilight Forever, the complete saga.
I know what you are.
Say it out loud.
Vampire.
The Ultimate Collector's Edition, 12-disc DVD or 10-disc Blu-ray box set with all 5 films and every special feature ever released, plus over 2 hours of exclusive content.
Are you afraid?
No.
I'm proud of what we worked for. It's just incredibly satisfying.
It's meant everything to me, and I've really had the time of my life the past few years.
I think no one could have expected what happened. It's totally crazy. I mean, no one could have predicted it.
We made 5 films from beginning to end in 3 years and 3 months.
And it's so cool to see people from all over the world who have connected because of this.
Forever.
Twilight Forever, the complete saga box set for the first time ever. November 5th.
All right, Camila. So we're going to talk about the whole Twilight Saga, but I think our main purpose is to talk about werewolves. We both, I think, have some strong opinions about werewolves, about their use in Twilight Saga, about what could have been done better or differently. So I guess let's maybe go in timeline order.
Yeah.
So starting way back when, I have no idea when the first Twilight movie came out, maybe like 2008 or so. Long time ago. You would have been a child. I was not. I remember when it came out and everyone was very Team Jacob, Team Edward.
Yes.
Like people were like super into kind of, I guess, teaming up against each other. But Jacob the werewolf wasn't really in the first movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he was in it, but he
Not
didn't really
really,
matter.
yeah.
All right, so talk to me about the first time you saw the second movie, which would have been New Moon.
Yeah, it was New Moon.
Okay.
Okay, I was really young, so my mom didn't want me to go see it at first.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm on your mom's side here.
And I actually, I didn't sneak out, but I was like, Mom, I'm going to the movies with my friends. And she's like, okay. We went to go see Twilight.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. At that age, I was like amazed by everything. So I was like, oh my God, this movie, like, it's so good. But like rewatching it now, like, it's so bad.
Agreed. I went to a midnight showing because again, I was a whole adult, so I was allowed to do things like that. I think I was about like 21 or so when this movie came out, and so yeah, I went to a midnight showing, and we were, you know, all screaming in the theater, and I know there's this one scene in that particular movie, the second movie, where some like rock type music is playing in the background and Bella's really sad and Jacob like rips off his shirt for the first time, and I remember being in that theater and just like literal screaming, like deafening screaming started happening, and I was like, oh, I guess there's some Team Jacob in here, like, because this kid at the time, I mean, I think they're about exactly my age, so he was probably about 20 or so at the time, and he had gone from this like child in the first movie, and then they made him get all like buff.
So like a man.
A man in the second movie. And so I think we were all very surprised, you know? He had like cut off the long dumb wig, and like he had abs, many of them, and like I will always remember being in that theater and everyone losing their minds.
That was like the first time I had seen like abs on a man, and like at my young age I didn't know what to do. I got like really flustered,
I'm sure,
and I was just sitting there. I was like, I can't tell my mom about this.
Yeah, well, not least of all because you sneaked out to go see it. So that second movie is so interesting because, you know, it's the first one that's really like about the wolves. You like get that whole like lore.
Yes,
There's the sort of like the Native American tribe is brought into things. They did hire mostly Native actors, except the main one, who is a white dude, which is, I think we can all just discuss how problematic that is. And that was not that long ago. So the fact that they got away with that in the late 2000, you know, era is sort of like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, let's all.
I think they try to make up for it by like hiring some Native American actors. They're like, oh, as long as our lead is still white, like it'll be okay. We have these Native American actors.
They're like, we'll surround him, and if no one can tell the difference, we did okay. And it's sort of like, all right. So they stuck with it. Obviously, the same guy kept playing Jacob. And the second movie, Bella ends up choosing Edward with, you know, the rest of us. I felt. But I think, especially people who were coming to the movies without having read the books, wouldn't have known quite how problematic Jacob was about to become. Yes, first of all, because played by a white dude in the movies. But also, when we got into the third Twilight, I feel like it was really about other things. But I think the fourth one, where we are introduced to imprinting. I think we should talk about that.
Every time I think like the imprinting in the movie, I just think about like Jacob nicknaming the baby Nessie, and Bella goes off. She's like, "You nicknamed my baby after the Loch Ness monster," and I die every time I think about that.
Dialogue. Oh, the dialogue. Like, oh, my phone's ringing. Sorry, Gabe.
You're good.
I don't know who it is.
Do you want me to answer the phone?
You can just hit the end button and it should hang up on them. Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good. If you want to just go back to the dialogue. Oh, the dialogue.
Sure. Okay. So, you're still recording?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. The dialogue is... I think through the fact that, like, the books were not that well written in the first place, and then they somehow, like, bastardized that for the movies, you know? And I'm just like, oh, these are... And as the movies went on, I think the acting got better, the costumes got better, the CG, we'll talk about that. But the dialogue somehow just like really took a nosedive. But yes, the imprinting, which I guess, do people know what imprinting is? It's that wolves like don't choose who they're attracted to. They like become, it's like a carnal thing. I don't really even, I'm doing a hand motion I wish I weren't doing right now. They just, it's like he can't help who he loves, and that's kind of the idea there. But like he imprints on that little baby,
a grown man
on a baby, the
The
daughter of the girl he's been trying to sleep with throughout this entire series.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I don't want to sleep with you anymore because like your daughter's come on scene, and I'm just like, that. Oh no,
that's
like,
very problematic.
Oh,
like,
no. And reading the books, I did not realize quite what that was gonna look like in the movies, and so when it happens in the movies, you're just sort of like, oh no. And then it's like she's like his kind of like goddaughter as a child, but like, hello, grooming is a real thing.
He just kind of like inserted himself in there and just,
like just was like, hi, she's mine now. So, like, hope that's okay, Mom. Like, ugh.
It's so weird.
Very problematic. And I know, like, how were they going to get around that, really? It was such a huge part of the books that, like, by the time the movies came around, what had been written had been written. But, so the other thing that the movies did that we probably want to talk about is the actual CGI they used to represent wolves. Talk to me about your perception, your view of those wolves in CGI.
I specifically recently, Twilight has been like blowing up a lot recently.
It has.
Like randomly, just all of a sudden. But like on Twitter, it's a lot of like behind the scenes of the making of Twilight, and there will be scenes where like Bella is like petting a wolf in the movie, but behind the scenes it's like just some guy going like bending down
They
in front of her, and
use
she's just like
so weird.
So weird.
And considering they went through all the trouble to have dudes
Yeah.
in green suits like standing in for the wolves, nothing about them is like realistic in any
Yeah.
way. They're the most cartoonish CGI
Yeah.
item I have seen from that era.
Mhm.
Like, I know CGI is better now than it was then.
But this wasn't that long ago.
This
They
wasn't that
could
long
have done
ago.
better.
Like, they could, for such a high budget
Yeah,
movie
it was-
too, or its
yeah.
franchise.
Mhm.
So, we've had a lot of complaints. Do we have anything we want to say quickly that we love about Twilight?
We love about Twilight. I think it just created such a big fan base. I know.
It's just something.
like,
Do I watch it every year? Yeah.
I do
Like,
too. My mom watches it every year, and now I'm old enough to watch it with her. Without
And
it
she
with
doesn't
her. She
kick
doesn't
you
say-
out
yeah,
or
she
stop you
doesn't,
from
yeah.
going anymore. Yeah, so I as much as we can complain, especially about the wolf parts of Twilight, because we're both Team Edward, obviously, I think pretty clearly from this. And another problematic relationship, but we can talk about that in a different episode. But I think overall, yeah, I love it, and I don't know why. I don't want to. It's a love-hate relationship.
Mhm.
I don't want to love it.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it?
Okay, quality of movies, like a 2, but like in actuality, like how badly do I want to watch them? Probably like a 7.
Yeah. I was
You?
I was gonna give it like a 5. Right in the middle.
Yeah, it's a 2-7, so maybe a 5
Yeah.
for me as well.
Yeah, there
you
you
know,
go.
like I hate myself for wanting to watch this, but I do. So
I love it.
I love it.
It's a classic.
It is a new classic.
And with that, let's go back to the studio.
Thanks for that, Locas. We'll be right back after this commercial break. And now we're going to check out Brett's review of The Wolf Among Us. Let's go take a look.
It's time for a slight throwback. Wikipedia will tell you that The Wolf Among Us is an episodic graphic mystery drama adventure game, and I would tell you that it's a fantasy neo-noir crime thriller. The point is, especially for a game released in 2013, this one is a lot of things. As you can imagine, based on those mouthfuls of descriptor words, The Wolf Among Us is drenched in genre, and engages in that respective genre fare. Being a narrative-focused game, it's based on the comic book series Fables by Bill Willingham, and is made by Telltale Games, who are known for point-and-click, story-focused games that enact consequences based on your choices. The first thing I noticed when I booted this one up is the way the color pops. From the title sequence to the drop of the first line, the visuals strike you and pull you in, letting you know that this experience has been crafted to suit the exact vision that was intended. And not to jump ahead, but this carries through later on. At the beginning of the second chapter, the visuals throw you into a sequence based on the emotion of where you just left off. I refuse to tell you what happened because that's a spoiler. When it comes to games like this, learning the story as you go is half of the enjoyment, even though it's been nearly a decade since the initial release. In this story, you're Big B Wolf, one among many other fairy tale-based characters who all attempt to lead lives that accommodate with their entrance into our natural, mundane world. You're dropped into the mean streets of the Bronx, New York City, and seconds after, you're asked for your service in ways that are clearly bothersome. The only problem is that despite having been the big bad wolf in the land of fables, Bigby is now the sheriff, and you can tell that this is something he struggles with on a daily basis. Everybody around him talks about how he used to be, and the people closest and furthest to him alike all want to let him know that if he just treated people more kindly, things would be easier. This is a principle that I've tried to stick by within my gameplay experience. Like I vaguely mentioned before, the way this game functions is that as you progress through the story, you're given dialogue options that lead towards different paths. Eventually, every now and then, you're given a QuickTime event, or you're led to a grand decision. The neat thing about this being a video game and not just a choose-your-own-adventure novel is that at the end of a chapter, you can look at a percentage list to see how other players decided to act. It's important that you think about your responses while you play, because beyond your actions simply having implied consequences, the characters in this game are designed to remember what you say and do to them.
Do you have any idea how much it costs to have an entire family in glamour?
I don't make the rules. Sorry. I can't give you a free pass on this, Toad. My hands are tied.
Right.
I remember all kinds of memes that ripped off the system from within these kinds of games, but the first time I acted and I was told Toad will remember that, I said words that I'm not allowed to say on this show. The consequence system from within this game is so engaging to me because I know that other games have had systems where consequences are heavily advertised as mattering immensely, but they don't really lead to that much. Mass Effect 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 are great examples of this. When I play games like this one, I have a rule that I can't Google anything about them until I've finished it. So I won't really know how much every single thing will have mattered until I've rolled credits on Chapter 5. That being said, this game has managed to surprise, annoy, and further engage me when I think about how Bigby has been told to be nice to people around him, so I don't steal money from people, and so when I need money in a scene that matters and I don't want to disappoint the people that are there, I end up broke. These are the kinds of things that make me pay attention. I care when a game shows me an array of interesting circumstances and then grabs me by the shoulders and says, "Hey, do you see this? This is all actually important. We put this stuff in here for you. Go nuts." The Wolf Among Us is a cohesive piece of work that oozes style while showing it's got substance out the wazoo. The music is on point, the voice acting is stellar, and this next point comes with a little bit of baggage. This game is clearly dated, and the first time I loaded it up, I encountered an error by simply mashing during a QuickTime event. Sometimes animations will look choppy due to just how many different sequences can possibly take place within a given scenario, and so the game itself doesn't seem like it's sure what's going to happen next. Despite those cracks at the seams, the art of this game is standout. The graphics click within a style that blends near seamlessly with the painted style of the backgrounds, and these are actually reasons that I'm excited to see the sequel flourish within an updated engine, and would like to see a remaster put a fresh coat of paint on it all. It all comes together as a phenomenal, one-of-a-kind experience. The Wolf Among Us is a gem from years ago that I just happened to overlook.
Thank you for watching, everybody. And if you thought this was entertaining, just wait till you see our credits. Let's check it out.